So welcome out everybody to our question and answer session in Middle Tennessee Raptor Center. I'm Lyle.
I'm Val.
And this is
Nod.
Yep, Nod decided to join us for this one and maybe able to answer a couple of questions about him. So probably the first question we got a few questions here we'll go through, but probably the biggest question we get when we take Nod to a program is he a baby? And what do you usually say?
Nope. He's full grown.
Yep, this is a full grown Eastern Screech Owl. This is a gray phase, and they come in two colors. Sometimes there could be argument for a third, but they're red or gray, and Nod here is a gray one. And he came from, where was it he came from again? I can't remember where, but
I can't remember where he came from either. Oh yeah, he was the ATV. He came from Bell Buckle.
Okay, so he came from up around Bell Buckle, Tennessee. Was hit by an ATV during that ice and snowstorm that we had over the winter last year, and he's been with us ever since. So he's doing pretty good right now. He's got some injuries that keep him from being able to be released. So he's a permanent education ambassador with us, and he's pretty cute for a little meanie.
He's really cute.
So just to let you know, there's a few things you're going to hear while we're doing this. Number one, you're probably going to hear goats. The goats are in the background. They see us over here and they want to be over here with us, but we can't have that because they'll be jumping on the table. so they'll be over there calling out. You'll probably see our dog Kiowa walking behind us here. You may hear him drinking out of the pool, which is right on the other side of this camera. So apparently we're in a flight path this afternoon because I hear an airplane, a little bit of road noise. So we'll try to talk loud and make sure that we cover it. You ready to get into some questions?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to start with the first one that was sent to us I thought was good. This was from Chris Counts, and he said, how did you get into taking care of raptors? And I know you usually talk about this, so
yeah,
I'll let you answer that one.
So it all started with my son and I were falconers, and just by trade I'm a nurse, and so people started bringing us injured and sick animals. And then we were approached by the TWRA and asked if we would actually do rehabilitation. And
we're not vets, by the way.
And we're not vets, no. And so talked with Lyle about it, and we decided that we would do it, but we would do raptors only, since that really is kind of what we're more experienced with. So that's how we got into it.
Yeah, and so y'all started as falconers in
2014,
and then we officially became a nonprofit in April of 2021. So our third birthday, I guess, is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yep.
So yeah, thank you for that question, Chris. He had a couple other ones though too.
Okay.
So he asked, how did you learn about their different conditions and how to take care of them?
Believe it or not, birds are very similar to humans when it comes to their illnesses. Also just doing a lot of reading and research, and just really, I hate to say it, but as with many things, a lot of it's trial and error. Some things that may work for some may not work for others, and we just try to stay educated as much as we can to what's happening. But believe it or not, actually human medicine and bird medicine really align very closely.
Yeah, but there was some training classes that you...
Oh yeah, and then yes, there was some rehabilitation classes, and that we took, that gives basic kind of information. And I think I took that probably in maybe 2019 or 2020.
And I remember when you came home from one of them, you had said that you had to do an IV. They had cadaver animals there to practice on, and you had to do an IV on, what was it? Was it a duck?
A duck. Yep.
And you got it though.
I did great.
Yeah, so good stick with a needle. So yeah, and then I don't have as much hands-on experience with the medical side of it, but I did take a couple of just online self-study courses about animal husbandry when it came to birds. There's a couple of really good online courses from Cornell University. Their bird academy is pretty good. They have some really good free information out there. There's paid classes too. And then there was one that I took through the International Society of Falconers, I think is what it was called, about raptor welfare that was pretty good. So that between the two of us, you know, Valerie has a lot of the medical side of it, and then those extra courses that we took gave us just a little bit more expertise in the things that we do try and help the birds out. Isn't that right, Nod? You're being so calm right now, but you're looking over there because there's a big red-tailed hawk in that enclosure in there, buddy.
Yep, and Oakley's probably over there too.
Yeah, so some of our other birds are in their enclosures around us too. So one of the other questions that we got, and we get this one a lot when we go to schools, is what's the worst injury? And I know that's probably a little subjective, because I know I can think of the ones that I think are the worst, but you may have some different ones. What do you think?
Well,
is the
that
worst?
chainsaw one was pretty wicked, but I would say probably the gunshot ones. Swanee's was pretty bad. The gunshot wounds, they're pretty bad.
Yeah, and I think the worst part about that too is that they're human inflicted.
Yeah.
It's not like it was an accident,
meaningless.
so
Yeah.
it was meant to injure an animal, and I think that just alone makes it probably one of the worst
Yeah.
injuries. But the worst, like, physical injury, I still think that, like you said, the chainsaw with the barn owl was a pretty rough one.
Oh gosh, the trap with the great horned.
Yeah, so I brought that out here to show you.
Oh, that was awful.
We had a great horned owl that got, this is the trap actually, they let us keep it, but this is the trap that he was in. Somebody had baited it and they flew down, or the bird flew down to it, tried to get whatever was on here and got his foot trapped in this. We were going to name him Bear. Unfortunately, he had been in it for quite a while, and he didn't survive.
4 days he was in it before we even got notified.
Yeah.
And by the time we got to him, I mean, it was a beautiful big great horned owl, but his entire leg was literally just rotting from being in that trap. I mean, those traps are not forgiving.
No.
They are actually they're illegal.
Yeah. Well, no, trapping is legal, but
no,
I mean,
these kinds aren't.
But yeah, this kind is not the right one. So
I don't even know what kind of trap that is.
I don't either. I'm not into trapping. I know there may be some people out there that are, but yeah, we had an owl that was stuck in that one. That was a pretty gruesome injury. That was pretty bad. So, and it's funny because that question came from a little kid too, and so I'm thinking, wow, that's a little morbid from a little kid. But
yeah.
Hey, it's a good question though, because we do see some bad ones between the wing breaks, like you said, the gunshots.
Yeah.
You know, rat poison's not necessarily an injury, but that one's always
that
rough to
one's
deal with.
Yeah.
So, but we don't want to make this all negative. So, but one of the other questions we got was, where do you release birds? So,
go for it.
Usually we try to release them pretty close back to where we found them or where they came from, especially if it's a mature bird, because they may have already established their territory right there. Sometimes we can do it, sometimes we can't. We do our best, but typically we're looking for a place that kind of out of the way,
not heavily populated.
Yeah, not heavily populated,
but has a good food source.
Yeah, because birds will establish themselves when the food is good. Kind of like us, if we go to somebody's house and they're a good cook, we're gonna go back to that house quite a bit. So, so birds are kind of the same. If there's an ample food source around, they'll hang out there and they'll establish their territory there. But we do try to release them back. And you know, there are some instances we've had where
they don't want to be released. Yeah, they don't want them released.
Yeah, people have found birds on their property, but they have chickens or other small animals, and they're a little worried about them. So they have requested not to have the bird released back there. So we get, you know, relatively close.
We utilize a lot of the land management sites too that are protected. The
TWRA has wildlife management areas. We've got one actually not too far away from here that we've released a couple of birds at. You know, we try to break it up too. We don't release them, you know, one right after the other in the same place, because if one does decide to stay there and establish territory, that can, well, we don't want them back because they got into a fight with another bird. So we want to keep them spread out. So we'll try to release them in places where there's not other birds around, or not back to back in the same place with the big birds like that. Yeah, so that was a good question too. So this one, we get asked this a lot in schools, and it's never bothered me to pick a favorite, but the question we got was, who is your favorite bird? We're probably going to have way different answers on that, but maybe not. Who is your favorite bird?
Oh, it's hard for me to pick a favorite.
I've got two, so.
I probably would say Remington for one.
Yeah, Remington's our barn owl. Yeah.
And It would be probably Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy
Yeah.
or Oakley.
Yeah. So Lucy's our great horned owl, and all these are our resident birds. We try not to pick favorites out of the ones we're going to release, because our goal is not to keep birds. We want to send them back, get them healed, send them back. But out of our education ambassadors, yeah, I would say I'd pick between
I
Lucy
bet yours
and
is
Ruby.
Ruby. I figured
Yeah,
yours
Lucy
would
and
be
Ruby.
Ruby.
Ruby's our peregrine falcon, and she's so good. She's so much fun to have out with kids. She's good around people. She's always been in captivity, so she's never been a wild bird. So she doesn't have quite the same wild tendencies as maybe a wild peregrine would. She's a lot of fun to work with, though. And she always puts on a show.
She does.
You know, she likes to get up on the glove and do almost every mannerism a peregrine is known for. She rows, you know, she flaps, she'll show her wings off.
She's also our biggest pooper.
Yeah, she poops a lot. A whole lot.
Yep, she's a big pooper.
So yeah.
Kids love the poopers.
Yeah, I like to tell the kids when we go to a new school, we'll spread out plastic on the floor, and whoever's in the front row, I'll tell them that they're in the splash zone, like they're at SeaWorld. And they're all like, splash zone? What are you talking about? So they figure it out pretty quick when one of the birds poops right in front of them. So this one, we get this one a lot too.
You've got to tell that one story that one time about that little girl.
What?
With the poop.
I can't remember where we were, but we were at a program, and this little girl was right in the front. She was a cute little girl, and she was having so much fun, you know, talking about the birds and asking questions just like this. And it was Remington, wasn't it?
Remy.
So Remington, he gets the nervous poops, and so every time we go to a program, he's the first one that's got to christen the plastic. And Remington, he must have been saving this one for a few days, because it was big and it was nasty. And it stunk so bad, and this little girl's gag reflex kicked in, and she starts the whole and
her eyes are watering, and it was a small enclosed, you know, space, and everybody's pulling their shirts up over their nose. But this poor girl was full on gagging.
We had to stop the program and change the plastic because it stunk so bad.
It was hilarious.
Oh man, it was bad. Yeah, Remington is definitely the big pooper. Yeah. But Ruby, she's more frequent. She's like every couple of minutes she's got to drop weight. So
that's funny.
I wish I could drop weight that easy, but it doesn't work out that way for me. So so how do we name them? How do we name them? Very very unoriginal is what we are.
Yeah.
We
name them based off of how badly our memory is. Basically. So
if we name a bird, like for example, we got a barred owl one time from Hendersonville. We named him Henderson. Because that way we knew where he came from.
Yeah. Or the Cooper's Hawk, number 7 from Jack Daniels.
Yeah, we had a Cooper's Hawk.
We have Rye too from Jack Daniels.
Yeah, so we try to name them something that will
trigger our memory.
Yeah, that will make us remember, like, oh yeah, that's where that one came from.
Yeah.
Because again, when we try to release them back where they came from, or pretty close to it, that's always very helpful. Now, the ones that have names like Lucy or Ruby, they're non-releasable, so we're not necessarily worried about trying to keep track of where they came from. Although we do know where both of them came from. Actually, we know where all of these came from. Yeah, we know where all of them came from.
Yep.
But all the ones that we keep, their names are not always indicative. But Swanee.
Swanee was.
Yeah, Swanee, our red tail, she was found in Swanee. So that was an easy one. I'm trying to remember. So Remington was born in captivity, so Remy wasn't named. But yeah, we're not real original at that. Just like with, well, I don't even know when they found or when they discovered birds like Nod here, Eastern Screech Owl. They don't screech.
No.
So I don't know why they called him a screech owl. His sound is not even close, really. No. It's like a really soft trill. It's really pretty. He's one of the ones that's inside with us. And when the sirens go by, you can probably hear a little bit of that road noise. When the sirens go by, they sing. And we hear it all the time. But the bad thing is it's never when we have our phones handy to record it. So, but you can go online and find owl sounds. There's plenty of recordings of screech
They are
owls.
very peaceful. Right now we have 5 that are inside in rehab, and all of them start. It's pretty at night.
They were doing it last night, actually.
Yep.
So.
It gets really pretty.
But yeah, they're kind of misnamed as a screech owl. But barred owl, for example, is only named that because the feathers have a barred pattern in it. And that's B-A-R-R-E-D, not B-A-R-D. They do sing, but not sing like a bard. Oakley's right over here to my right. And he's He's just watching. So, all right. So yeah, so that's how we name them. It's not original, but it works. All right. So this little kids ask this all the time, and I usually do this by a show of hands. But can owls turn their heads all the way around? So if you've been watching little Nugget over here,
who's getting sleepy? Yeah,
he's getting sleepy. His eyes are getting squinty. So I usually ask who thinks they can, who thinks they can't, and they'll raise their hands. And they're always surprised to find out that owls cannot turn their heads all the way around. It's close. They can get almost to 300, or no, 360 is all the way around. Yeah. 270 is 3/4 of the way around. They have extra vertebra in their neck, and their eyeballs are fixed in their head. That's why I brought the skull out here. You can kind of see this is a replica of a great horned owl skull, and now the sockets are very fixed and protruded like that, so they can only see in one direction. You know, most predatory animals have their eyes on the front of their head like that, so they have that extra extension in their neck to be able to search and hunt for their prey, where animals, hello Kiowa, where animals who are not predatory usually have eyes on the sides of their head, so that way they can watch for predators both behind them and in front of them. So they almost have 360 vision too, but that's more because they're prey animals and not predators. Predators, however, like this, they can turn their head. Oh, there he goes. Look, he's got his head almost 180 back around looking at you. How about that nod?
Hi, Naughty.
Good timing, buddy.
Or so sleepy.
So yeah, so good question so far. We got a couple left here. So in our last program, this little girl asked this question.
We've had a lot of adults ask this question.
Yeah, that's true too. I think the Harry Potter movies have got it in people's heads that you can have an owl as a pet. So the question is, can you have an owl as a pet?
They're terrible. They would be terrible pets.
Yes. And they do not get the mail like they did in Harry Potter.
No.
No. And now if we could train Lucy or Remington to go get it, I'd be good with that.
Yeah.
But Nod wouldn't do it.
Owls aren't, even though we have program birds that are used to doing programs, it really kind of gives a little bit of a jaded image of what they're really like, because owls really by far have pretty bad attitudes.
Yeah, I would say out of all the birds that we get, barn owls are the worst.
They're mean. They
are
mean.
Very, very mean. In fact, over here to Valerie's left is the enclosure with the barn owl that had the chainsaw injury, and every time we go over there to feed her, she goes berserk.
Yeah, she's mean.
And then when we have to get her to check her and make sure that her wounds are healing, she screams, makes this terrible sound. You know, they should have actually been named Screech Owls, in my opinion.
Well, their screams are really, they sound like a bobcat, really.
Yeah, a lot like a bobcat screaming. So if you're ever outside, there's only really one owl that we have that hoots, and that's a great horned owl. If you hear anything else that you think is an owl, if you hear a hoot, that's an owl. But the other noises, it may not be. Maybe something else, or it could be an owl just doing a different noise. So they make Remington's got about 9 vocalizations or so.
Yeah.
Even these little nuggets here have 2 or 3 that I've heard. They've got the little whinny and their trill, and then when they're really upset, they actually do cry out, but it's not a screech though.
No, it's not a screech.
It's not a screech. So, but that's always a good question. Yeah, that's pretty much true with all wildlife though.
Yeah.
You can't have wildlife as pets, not unless you're permitted. And we're big proponents of, you know, if you're going to do something like what we do, or if you want to get into rehab, go through the right processes to get the training and get the certifications that you need. You'll see videos of people who have raccoons and possums.
Yeah.
Like Kiowa, you can hear back there's got a squirrel treat, and he's very happy about it. But yeah, you'll see people that have these videos of possums, and they're feeding these hordes of raccoons that will come up, and you know, it may look cute on a video, but
you're actually doing them more damage, because if something happens to you, those animals have become so dependent on humans for their food that they actually can become aggressive and then end up having to be put down.
Yeah.
We've had several birds come to us that people thought they were doing the right thing by keeping them for a long time. And then when they got to be older and they realized they've got to eat, you know, other birds or mice or things like that, they didn't want to do that. And so then, you know, we get them, and it's hard to find them placement places because they'll never be able to be returned to the wild and be, you know, effective hunters. So
I know it does make cute videos and all that stuff, but wildlife is meant to be wild, and it's hard because people want to do the right thing. They want to take care of them, and you know, we get that. We understand. That's why we got into doing this, because we want to take care of them too. But just go about it the right way. That's the best advice we can give you. Contact your state agency that governs that, and go through the right process to get it. That's definitely the way to go. So one of the best questions that we ever got, and this wasn't in this batch that we got, but we talk about this one quite a bit, is we got a call one time to go to a vet's office. They had a red-tailed hawk that was on the ground on their property, and they wanted us to come get it. And I'm thinking, well, they're a vet's office. Why didn't they just go outside and get it? Well, so one of the vet techs comes out while we're out there tromping through the woods trying to find this bird. And she goes, oh, I would love to get into doing rehab. How much money do you make? And we both pretty much giggled. And my answer to this is that this is an investment. It's not a money maker.
You will not make any money doing this.
No, you won't. You won't. Not unless you get into one of these big, like, Steve Irwin type situations where he's got his own zoo and that sort of thing, you know. And I think even then, Steve gave most of what he made back to animal organizations and things like that. But yeah, this isn't a business that you get into to make money. This is definitely an investment, but it really is a labor of love. You know, we are not made of money by any means, but you know, we do what we can.
But we still have to work.
Yeah, so we still work full-time jobs. This is not, as much as Nod would like to have us home all the time, this is not our full-time job. I work a full-time job. Valerie works full-time. So we do this when we're not working our normal jobs. This is our other 40-hour-a-week job, and then some.
Yeah.
We go do a lot of programs, and we are very blessed that, you know, there are people that give us donations, and we have had to start charging for some of our education programs just because a lot of the requests we get, you know, where we live, the requests are coming from areas that are further away, and there is a lot of expense, and you know, even packing
up a lot of time. A lot of time and effort goes into it.
But even packing up little Nod here, I mean, we've got to pack up. It's almost like having a kid. You got a diaper bag.
You
got all their
stuff. You have a diaper bag with everything in it.
And instead of a car seat, you have a bird box. You have to have your gloves, and you know, you have to look presentable when we go out to places. So I mean, there's a big expense that goes with it. But I'll never forget this. We went and did one program, and it was for a little boy's birthday.
Oh man, that was such a good one. And well, we've done a couple of birthdays. Are you talking about the one in Dunlap?
No, I'm talking the other one that we did, like going up towards Murfreesboro.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
So that little boy, his name escapes me, but he was so excited. It was a surprise. He didn't know we were coming.
Yeah.
And so he's big into birds. Apparently, he loves just birds in general, but he really loves raptors. And I remember at that program, either he said it or his mom said something along the lines of, we had a guy come to our school and he brought an owl, and he said it was just a guy with an owl
on his arm.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
it was great.
Oh, and it was so funny because you could hear the disdain in his voice. He was mad that guy didn't do a better program, and so we've kind of taken that to heart. You know, when we go and do a program somewhere, we really want
them to get something out of it.
Yeah, we want them to be, even if they only learn one thing while we're there about, you know, maybe the owls can't move their eyes in the sockets and can only look straight ahead, you know, any little thing like that they can learn makes it worth it. But I'll just never forget that little boy. He was so disappointed.
He was.
He was just a guy with an owl. So yeah, so for this time around, those are all of the questions that we received. We'll be happy to do this again. If you have other questions, you know, feel free to drop them to us, and you know, we may sit down out here in the backyard because it's kind of nice out tonight.
It is.
We don't have much more time though before it's going to start getting cold, so
yeah,
we may do this inside if it goes too much longer.
So let's give updates on the birds we have right
so.
Now. Yeah, so the barn owl with the chainsaw wing is in an enclosure, rehabbing and regaining some strength. I think she's doing really well actually on her flight strength.
Yeah.
She needs to get moved probably within the next couple of weeks. Whenever we get another enclosure open, we'll move her over to a larger enclosure to where she can get some more flight time. but she's made a pretty good recovery, I'd say.
Yeah.
Considering her injury, and we never thought she would be able to be released. And honestly, she's mean.
And
so she would have made a terrible.
Yeah.
She would have made a terrible display bird, and she wouldn't have, cut it as far as an Ed bird, because she's got a terrible personality.
And we had the discussion multiple times too if we should go ahead and euthanize her, because that injury was pretty gnarly.
It was gnarly.
But every time we had that discussion, we would, we'd do a review on her and just check her out and see how she was healing. And I mean, we were both shocked to see that those feathers were growing back in. You can see there's a little patch missing. So she's got one little patch that didn't grow in, but it didn't affect her primaries at all.
No, and so far it's really not affecting her flight too much.
I don't think so either.
We'll see as time goes on how that goes.
Yeah.
But then let's see, we have the barn owl that was hanging upside down from the tree. Actually, this morning I checked in on her, and she had passed away. That one I had to the vet, and they said there weren't any breaks or anything. There was definitely something else that was wrong with the bird than just that. So I can't really put my finger on it, but that was a disappointment.
Yeah, it's really kind of sad. Every time we check in on her, she was having a lot of trouble standing.
Yeah, she couldn't stand except for on that one leg, and it's very hard for them to do that. So you'd have to cut their food up into little pieces and stuff, because owls, if they don't take it down whole, they'll rip it apart, and with one foot and they can't do that. So they are completely dependent on you for everything. And she was eating really good, actually.
Yeah, she was.
She was making up for some lost time, because she was hungry when she came to us. But so that one was sad. That one was kind of disappointment. Albert, we still have. Albert's been in an outdoor enclosure now Albert's been with us a little while.
And that is Albert, Owlbert.
Yeah.
So again, not original with the names.
He had a significant injury too.
Yeah.
To his wings, but we're waiting for him to finish molting out.
Yeah, so with him, when we got him...
I don't remember what happened to him.
He was hit by a car, if I remember correctly, but I'd have to go back and look. But his feathers on one wing, especially his primaries, were all gnarled up where they had been banged into. And he was self-mutilating.
That's right. He was our one who was self-mutilating. He almost took his whole wing off.
Yeah,
and they will do that. They will actually do that.
He started biting on that and was trying to pull his own feathers out. So we actually just held him down. Well, not held him down, but we held him.
Pulled those blood feathers out.
We clipped them, and we're very careful around the blood feathers that they have. But we clipped all those feathers off just so he would quit chewing at that wing, and that actually seemed to do him really well. But the bad thing is that now we have to wait for a molt for him to be able to grow them back, and so we can try his flight out. He did grow several of them back, and we did try to fly him. He made it a little bit. He didn't get very far, so he just needed more time.
He doesn't get any altitude, so he just needs a little bit more time.
Yeah, he needs to get a little more lift before he can get back out there in the wild. And then we got all the screeches.
We've got let's see, we got one that was brought to us in Murfreesboro when we were doing that program. That one was hit by a car. That one is blind in one eye, but otherwise has made a really good recovery. So
that'll be one release.
That'll be either a release or a placement. And then we've got
the little red screech. He's about ready to go.
Well, we've got the red screech who's ready to go. That one came from Tullahoma. That one had ingested some poison.
I think that's all of our rehabbers right now, though.
No, we have the little barn, little barred owl over there who's blind in both eyes. That one actually we're just looking for placement. That one's the sweetest, got the sweetest disposition.
Yeah, he does. And
tiny little male.
Vision probably has a lot to do with that.
But he has been in the same enclosure now for a good month.
Yeah, about a month.
More,
yeah.
And has really acclimated to where all of his perches are. He knows exactly where we put food. He knows where his water dish is. He's really acclimated well. We kind of hate to wreck that, but he's really sweet. And then, of course, we still have Ethel, who we were waiting. Ethel's the great horned owl that fell. It was like 40 feet from a tree and landed on her head. And she had the retinal tears.
And she was a baby, by the way. She wasn't flighted.
So we were, the vet had suggested that she, wait till she's an adult and then maybe recheck. So I think we're at the point where we need to have her rechecked. I still know she's definitely blind in one eye. And
yeah, where that retinal tear is in that one eye, it's a significant tear. You can actually see it, but it doesn't seem to cause her any pain.
No, I don't think it causes her any pain, but you can tell she just...
And she can still dilate
shadows
that
or
eye.
something.
She can still dilate it, though. It's not detached enough to where she can't, cut out light, open it and close it in light and dark. But
yeah, but she's just not right.
No, and she gets very unstable on the glove whenever we tried her outside just to see if she would do better outside.
It was terrible. It made me feel terrible. She did fine, but she would never get off of the perch.
Yeah, once she got on a perch, she would stay there, and that's visual.
Just no quality
no,
there.
It's not.
So we've got to make some decisions on her. First thing we'll do is get her back to a vet and see if she's made any progress with the eye. We know the one eye will never be fixable, but we're hoping maybe the other eye, she's got maybe enough vision that she might be able to be released. But
well, it's interesting with owls, though. I mean, they're auditory hunters. They can hunt completely by hearing, but they do need to see too. I always, I feel bad because in our early programs, I always said that an owl could be blind in the wild and still survive, but they still have to be able to see where they're flying. Yeah, they got to see where they're going. They can hear their prey just fine, I'm sure.
I mean, now you can have a successful owl that's blind in one eye.
Oh, yeah.
But they do have to relearn their depth perception and all those things. I mean, it just...
And they literally, lack of a better term, they have a blind side then because, again, like I said, they can only look one direction. So if you think about your eyes focused one way and now you've lost one, if a predator came from this side or, anything that can injure them, they're never going to see it. They literally won't see it coming.
Yeah.
So they can hear just fine, but they do need their eyes too. So, but we've had some successes with one-eyed owls being released, and
McGregor.
Yeah, McGregor was one, and that eye was not coming back. That was
that was a bad one.
Yeah.
But
who else have we got to update? Anybody else?
I'm trying to think who else is inside. I've got the other screech that was hit by a car. That one's recovering. Let's see, we've got a gray and 2 reds inside.
Yes. And little nod.
And then little nod.
All of them... you said we had 5. We have 3 reds.
Yeah, we have 3 reds and a gray.
Yeah.
And all of them...
3 reds and 2 gray.
3... Well, crap. 3 reds and 2 gray.
We do feed them all, I promise.
Yes.
It's not like we forget them, but...
Mercy! All of them are recovering. One is ready to be released anytime. And the others are, they'll just need a little bit more time.
Yeah. And then I guess the last one, if you follow our stuff, you probably saw about 3 weeks ago or so, we had a tundra peregrine that was brought to us from Shelbyville. We're in October, or end of October, so this is that migratory season where some birds that may not be from around here are showing up. And, we don't have tundra peregrines in Tennessee, but we are on a flight path, and this one was injured. And
he was injured bad.
Yeah, we tried really hard, but his wing, it had to be an infection.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It was an infection.
Because we were giving antibiotics, we were doing all the wound cleansing. We treated him probably better than some hospital patients, I would imagine.
He really needed to have the wing taken off.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get to a vet soon enough. And it wasn't from, that is one thing with rehabbing that stinks is that you're at the mercy of a vet, and there's not very many who work on raptors. And so I do feel like that one, I feel like if we would have gotten it immediately and had the wing removed, I feel like we would have had a chance. But I think that infection was so bad.
Well, that opens up another question, though, because we get asked a lot about, if we get a bird with a broken wing, can you have the wing removed. So if you think about it, in a human, you know, yes, you have amputee cases where you could take an arm or a leg and there's still there's you know, potential to move forward. But with a bird, if you think about all the things that they have to do with their wings, with their feet, like she was just saying with the barn owl, you know, they need both feet to be able to eat. They usually will hold their food or their prey down and then tear at it with their beak. But when they've only got one foot, it's almost impossible to do. So even with a wing, you couldn't have a bird like that in an outdoor enclosure because they can't even fly from perch to perch with a wing missing.
No, you'd have to have a bunch of modifications.
Yeah.
The only reason we had even thought about having the wing removed was, one, it was the only way the bird had a chance of survival,
right,
because it was so gnarled. And then second of all, it's such a rare bird to have around here that it would have made a really good education bird.
Yeah.
But that's the only time. We really aren't big people on taking wings. Actually, U.S. Fish and Wildlife has put kind of a stop to a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if it takes how much a percentage of their body. It can't be done.
Yes, I can't remember what the number is.
I can't remember what the number is either, but
there's a math formula that determines how much of a wing can be removed in a case like that. But you know, peregrines are they're not on the endangered species list anymore, but they are a threatened. Let me rephrase that. They're not even on the threatened list, but their populations are in decline. And so when we got that bird in, you know, our thoughts were, because this is a species that has the potential to go back on the threatened or endangered list, that it would be, even if the vet didn't necessarily agree, we would think it would be worth it to remove that wing and make the necessary modifications.
Yeah, because ultimately it could have been a breeding bird, not for us, but for somebody else if they ever wanted to do that.
Yeah, because you know, when peregrines were almost extinct, it was the falconry community that brought them back from the edge. You know, doing some crossbreeding with tundra peregrines, North American peregrines, and so there was a big push there. And because of people keeping birds like that, falconry birds, that's the reason why there's even peregrines in the wild, or at least here in North America. They're pretty prevalent in other places, but here they just about were wiped out. So.
Yeah.